Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified Doctor of Naturopathy, Dr. Stephen Cabral, shares with you exactly how you can reverse aging, take back your health, and live a life full of energy and passion, with new 20-minute episodes every single day to keep you healthy and engaged. Now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back, everybody. We're here again, second Cabral HouseCall of the weekend. Excited to get started with today's show. Hopefully you got to tune into yesterday's show, which was episode 2745. Definitely check out that show after today's if you didn't get a chance to listen to it. We had about a half dozen amazing questions from the community. We tackled all sorts of different topics like high blood pressure during pregnancy. We also spoke about, let's see what else we spoke about. I can share it with you right now. We talked about best times of the day to drink alkaline water, or should you be drinking alkaline water at all. We also talked about foods to avoid during pregnancy, if any. We talked about if adding some type of nut milk or fat to coffee would slow the caffeine or maybe even cortisol-based spike. And another question, let's see, on nerve damage and vertigo, and if there's anything that can be done. So today's show, I haven't looked at those questions yet today, but those are at stephencabral.com/2746 if you want to read along, follow along to see what the community's questions are. All right. I've got the document open now, and again, I don't do any prep work for the show. I love being able to give you a second opinion to what you may have already heard from your practitioner or doctor or the internet, right? The interwebs of what you might be reading online. So I just want to share with you again, I always can't give you any medical advice, medical cures, medical diagnosis, or medical treatment plans. No one can do that online over a podcast. That's not how life works. But what I want to do is share with you 25 plus years experience, well over 250,000 client appointments in my practice, and hundreds upon hundreds of thousands at-home lab tests that I've been fortunate enough to be able to view and really see people get what many people would call miraculous recoveries by simply doing what? Looking for the underlying root causes, the deficiencies and the toxicities in the body, and then giving the body what it needs in order to heal itself. We humans, we think we heal the body. Nope. We give the body what it needs to remove things, to add back in, and allow the body in all of its innate wisdom to heal itself. All right, let's get started. So, first question's from Sarah. Sarah says, "Hi, Dr. Ball, does a leaky gut cause food sensitivities? Or do food sensitivities cause a leaky gut? Thanks." It's a great question. Actually, in all my years, in all of the integrative health practitioners that we've certified as health coaches, I don't think I've ever been asked that question. It's fantastic. It's a great question. And what I would say is this. The answer to both is yes. It's yes. So here's what. Food sensitivities can cause inflammation in your gut. So let's say that you're sensitive to cow's milk, number one food sensitivity in the world. Okay, so you're sensitive to food, to cow's milk. Okay, so you get inflammation in the digestive tract from immune cells actually migrating into the intestines and causing an attack on the protein molecules of, let's say, the casein in the cow's milk. Okay, so now you get inflammation, and that inflammation then can widen the intestinal lumen, or basically the cells. I'll show you my buddy here, Walter. Walter, if you're watching this on video, is missing half of his head because I apologize, but I did a show earlier in the week on melatonin and cortisol and inside the brain, how that works. But here are your intestines. Here's your belly button right here. So all your small intestines are around it. Your large intestine wraps right over it and down. And believe it or not, your stomach's above it. A lot of people think their stomach is down near their belly button. And so what happens is these can become permeable. And when it becomes permeable, okay, now the foods can actually enter the bloodstream. And when it enters the bloodstream, right, it then causes inflammation in the body, which can then cause stress on the body. And stress on the body can also cause an increased intestinal permeability, which is leaky gut. So stress can cause leaky gut, which then can allow foods that you're eating, normal foods, to come into your bloodstream. And when they come into your bloodstream undigested, not fully digested, meaning the proteins have not been broken down into, basically single amino acids or much smaller amino acid strands, then the body sees them as foreign and attacks them, right? So leaky gut can be caused by food sensitivities, and food sensitivities can cause leaky gut. So the answer is yes to both. right? What came first, the chicken or the egg? We may never know, right? So that's part of it. So hopefully that's helpful. If I didn't answer your question, it may be because I didn't understand it fully. So I apologize, and do feel free to write back in and ask it another way. All right, Julia's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. Thank you for doing the show and for your honest answers and reviews. I know you offer the IgG food sensitivity testing as part of the Big 5 labs, and I would like to understand your rationale for it as scientifically it has been shown to have very poor value. Multiple studies have now demonstrated that IgG testing cannot be equated to sensitivity in individuals, but could rather be linked to exposure to said food or even tolerance. I know that there are alternatives looking at changes in blood size in structure such as ALCAT MRT. What are your opinions on those tests, and why do you choose the testing with IgG? Thank you. Okay, so I've answered this question at least a dozen times on the podcast, at least a dozen times. I'm happy to answer it again, but here's why. So I have access to every lab test known to man. Like, as a doctor, I have full access to whatever labs I'd like to run. The Big 5 are the 5 labs that make the greatest difference in people's lives. Now, there are studies that show negatives to an IgG food sensitivity test. Okay, and I'll share those in just a second. And there are lots of studies that show positives, which is why in a hospital setting and an allergist office, they still use IgG food sensitivity testing as well. So when I look at Boston Children's Hospital, it's arguably the number one, if not within the top 3 children's hospitals in the entire world, they still use IgG food sensitivity testing because there's value to it. Now, for the people online saying it's just based on what foods you eat, they don't understand what they're even speaking about. Here's why. We ask people to eat a variety of foods over 3 days that you would like to test. We purposely say that. There are 192 foods that we test for. On average, the average person might have, a healthy person, like a healthy gut, might have 2 to 3 maximum sensitivities. If they ate 30 different foods over those 3 days, a little bit of this, they ate a little bit of bread, a little bit of dairy, a little bit of eggs, a little bit of meat, a little bit of fish, a little bit of peat, like everything, right? But they're only sensitive to 3 of those 30 things. Well, doesn't that negate the argument that the test only shows what you ate? It's absurd. It's absurd, right? Because it would have showed all of them if it was a sensitivity. The test has value. The problem is that you cannot base all of your protocols and findings on one lab. We run the food sensitivity tests with the Candida metabolic and vitamins test. And if there's gut issues, we run an additional one called the bacterium parasite stool test. So we're looking at the gut from 3 angles. Every angle. It's called the Big 3, not the Big 5, but the Big 3 is just for the gut. And why this is important is because when we do eliminate many of those food sensitivities, people actually get a reduction in inflammation that can be measured. But not only that, it's not a forever thing that you need to eliminate those. And when we combine it with yeast overgrowth, bacterial overgrowth or imbalances, H. pylori, and parasites, we get a full look at the gut. So until there's better testing, I'm going to continue to use this. Once there's better testing in the future, then we'll migrate to a better lab. But right now, this is the best, absolute best there is. And it gives my clients and people's patients the best results possible. So I feel there's still a lot of value to it. And so do tens of thousands of other doctors. Just some don't, and that's okay. And so the thing is, as a patient or a client, you don't have to run the lab if you don't want to. And that's the amazing thing about taking control of your own health. You get to decide, and I want people to decide. If you don't agree with me, I'm always okay with that. I really am. I'd be totally okay if you don't agree with me still after my rebuttal. I'd be totally fine with that, because you should always do what you feel is best for you and your family, and just run the test that you feel that they're of value from. All right? All right. Let's see. The next one is from Summer. Summer says, hi, Dr. Cabral. Wondering if the parasite stool test or any of the tests will detect blood parasites. If not, how can blood parasites be detected and dealt with? Will the parasite protocol wipe out blood parasites as well as digestive parasites? Thanks for everything you do. Love learning from you every day. Thank you, Summer, for writing in. It's all about the digestive tract today, which is great. I don't align the questions. I never know what's going to be coming in. So, the bacterium parasite stool test takes a stool sample, small stool sample, 3 days, in 3 days in a row. And that gives you your best chance at finding a parasite or H. pylori or bacterial overgrowth, yeast, etc. All right. So It does not test your blood. All right. Why does that matter? Well, if you have blood parasites, there is a test that you can do with your PCP and only your medical doctor. And what they do is a blood smear, and they'll actually send it to a lab, and it will be examined under a microscope for parasites. So that's how they do that. All right. The amazing thing about our stool parasite testing is they also use it with a computer and under a microscope too. So that's pretty amazing to be able to find those. All right. And again, I can't give you medical advice for whether our parasupport protocol would help with blood parasites. What I would say is this, is that you can use a natural approach like the Equalife parasupport protocol and or an anti-parasitic if you choose to. That's up to you. I couldn't imagine not doing a natural protocol, even if you're doing a conventional medicine one. Like, this is just speaking for myself or my family. And the reason is that you still need the biofilm disruptors. Like, you still need all of those things to be able to make sure you even access all of those parasites. Because if it's in your blood, the likelihood that it's not in your digestive tract or it came that way from the first part, it is highly unlikely. Possible. You can get it through your eyes, believe it or not, but it's possible. Get it through your skin, a cut on your foot. All right, so hopefully that's helpful. Again, all my protocols, all the labs, everything I'm talking about here today, if it's all new to you, it's at stephencabral.com/shop. That is my online private practice. You'll be able to find everything right there. And again, you never have to work with us, but you can at least know what we offer. All right, next question is from Salman. Salman says, hello, thank you for your post on Alzheimer's early detection. Can you please share the info on where I can do the Alzheimer early detection blood test that you referred to? Okay, so Salman's referring to, and thank you, Salman, for writing in. Salman's referring to a podcast series I did. It's called The End of Alzheimer's. And what I would do is, if you don't know where those are, they're in the 700s, the episode number. So like today we're on episode 2746. So it was done a while ago, but it's in the 700s. It's a free 3-part series on the end of Alzheimer's. What I would do is this: ask at cabralsupportgroup.com, and they're going to share it with you. And then it will also share the blood work. The blood work is something that anyone can do on their own. And it's looking at high sensitivity CRP and a bunch of other markers. But now, since that show, there's also now again, I would run those, right? I would run your full blood work panel that you would do annually anyways, just a more advanced one. And we teach all of this inside of High Performance Health. So Salman, if you really want to go deep, like again, if you're really into the science behind all of this, highperformancehealth.org, whether you're taking the course or the certification, I go so deep on this. Like, just on the brain, there's 200 slides. Like, it's pretty remarkable. Sharing you everything up to date on how to test for Alzheimer's decades in advance. And then if you find any signs of it, how to reverse it. And again, this isn't me saying it. These are clinically, scientifically validated tests that people will never know about for years to come, as well as the protocols. So I teach that again inside of High Performance Health. Everything on my podcast is always free and it's always here. It's just like, you have to find it, right? You need to move through it. We do our best to help you find those things with the search box. Okay, I'm moving off topic here. So a couple things you can do. To look for Alzheimer's, a full body MRI, including the brain. Absolutely remarkable. The second is a SPECT scan. You do one or the other, okay? I would do the full body MRI. It's less expensive. Then if you find anything, you might go deeper. And then there's also a new blood test that they're trying out. There's actually a couple of them, but one of them off the top of my brain is called Precivities AD. AD stands for Alzheimer's disease. And that is a blood test that you can run if there's belief of dementia, Alzheimer's, etc., that can test it in advance as well. So again, the easiest one, the one that I did, is the full body MRI. I used, I wish I could give you the exact code and all that. I think it's prenuvo.com/Dr. Stephen Cabral. I think that's the discount for our community. That's the exact one that I did. That looks at full body scan for cancer, cysts, and beginning of dementia, Alzheimer's disease. So that's that. Okay, let's see if we can get one more question. We might be able to. Let's see. Is it a long one? Nope, not too long. Let's do it. It's from Kelsey. Maybe another one from Kelsey. Kelsey says, hi, Dr. Brawl. How crucial is spacing meals out 3.5 to 4 hours if you're already doing a longer fasting window? 18 hours daily. Just want to make sure I'm getting enough calories on a daily basis. I stay pretty hungry as I'm very active. Thanks. This is a great question. Really great question. So typically you always want your meals 4 to 5 hours apart. And that's because it takes like 2 to 3 hours to get the food out of your stomach, minimum, especially if you're having meat, it takes longer, or salad, it takes longer to break down those foods, or a big meal. It can just take 3 hours or more, 4 hours. And then you also want to let your blood sugar come back to normal. But I get it. If you're doing a longer fast, your blood sugar is probably normal for 18 hours. So what I would say is this: follow my podcast on food layering so you'll learn how quickly foods digest. If you're having a smoothie, well, a smoothie is going to be digested in like an hour or two, right? If you're having just straight fruit, in under an hour, it'll be digested. So think about the foods that you're eating, and then you can layer it that way. So like, for example, let's say you wanted to get 3 meals in just 6 hours, because that's all you have for your window, right? That's what you're saying, Kelsey. Okay, so can you get 3 meals in 6 hours? It's going to be tough, but the way you can do it is this: smoothie first, right? Like right when you break your fast, okay, that's digested in like 2 hours. Next meal, 2 hours later. And that might be, let's say, simpler, easy to digest foods. Maybe it's like hummus and veggies, and I don't know what it is. I'm just making stuff up like off the cuff here, and some hemp arts, things like that, right? And then your last meal, that might be your meat, your fish, your veggies, something like that, right? That would be what? It would essentially be 3 hours or so, 3.5 hours after you finish that second meal. And you'd be able to get those 3 in. Do I recommend that? I don't know. You're right that you want to be able to get in all your fruits and veggies and all of those things. So that's the problem with the 6 hour eating window, and that's why I don't typically recommend it. Hard to get in your 7 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. But yes, if you're adamant about it and getting in all of your calories, you could do that. Or there's no doubt about it that you could still get your calories in 2 meals. You could just do like a fruit appetizer 30 minutes before. Then you get in your meal afterwards. It's easy to get in more calories when you're consuming more calorically dense foods, kind of the opposite of nutrient dense but lower calorie foods. And those would be like your sweet potatoes, your Japanese yams, your maybe some wild rice, plenty of olive oil, which is going to have lots of calories, and your meat, your fish, or your beans, your proteins in that way. So I'll let you decide, but how I laid it out could absolutely be done. You could do it at hour 0, hour 2, and then wait 4 hours, and then hour 6, right before that hour, let's say, 5.5, you'd get in your larger or last meal, and you'd be able to get them all in. So hopefully that's helpful. And then, it would take hours to digest after that last meal, but I have a podcast on how to get into a fast faster if you want to check that out as well. That is my time for today. I appreciate you. I thank you all. I'll be back tomorrow with a brand new Mindset and Motivation Monday. Don't miss it, everybody. Stay amazing. Stay well. I'll talk with you soon. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Steven Cabral. And that's Steven with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.